Okay. I think we could start.
Let's do
All
it.
right, I'm gonna have my phone too, for the notes you sent, which I showed Rachel that. I'm like, this is the fuck I'm talking about.
Hell yeah. Good old GPT. Just got to know how to ask it nicely.
Really? Is that what did this for you?
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful, bro. I know you were a fan of that, and I'm not.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, even with the AI on there, it's like, dude, these are tools.
It
We
works.
just add them to our tool
Yeah.
belt, and uh, people look at it as cheating in certain things, especially when it comes to like school and education, which I get that. But like, when it comes to business, it's almost a necessity.
Yeah, but then it brings me back to the conversation of like, what in school are they teaching you that's really valuable? If you could
Right.
just go get it from chat,
Right. They
like
should be teaching people how to use this
how
properly.
to use this properly
Yeah.
instead of teaching me how to. It's like the age old question of like, am I going to use a calculator anyway?
Right.
So why are you teaching me to use this?
Right.
All right, so I'll open up with I got my boy Blake on the podcast, fellow girl dad, someone that, funny enough, I put out I want to start a podcast, I need help. Someone replies to the Instagram question and they go, you need to hit up, and it's so random because when I get these DMs and people are hitting me up, it really is random.
Yeah.
Who I like, it's not like I don't go through and like lottery pick people. It's just like sometimes I click on what people say and sometimes I don't. The vast responses that I get, I mean, when you're talking to 200,000 people, some people are responding, hey, can you send me money so I can buy diapers?
Right.
And some people are responding like, hey, I actually have someone that can help you. So I happen to click on this girl. She says, you need to check it out. Blame it on Blake, right?
Yep.
Okay, so Instagram handle, blame it on Blake, fellow girl dad, and he's a good dad. And I'm like, if you say girl dad, I'm going to look at your profile. Because I'm like, I want to check this out. So I go look. And sure as shit, I mean, just a focused individual, which I think anybody kind of in fitness or like challenging themselves, like I always say, you could be challenging yourself by making the best pair of shoes in the world, or you could be challenging yourself by perfecting your body. As long as I know you're pushing, I'm like, all right, good sign. So I DM Blake, immediately hops on a call with me. Immediately is like, do you want to call me? And I knew it was for real because he sent me a Calendly.
Yeah.
Is that like, they're like these little calendar invites you get.
Yeah.
And so when I'm like DMing like, yo, I'll call you in an hour. He's like, sends me a Calendly link. I'm like, oh shit, I'm in over my head. Because I'm not that,
No.
I'm not that professional yet. So I'm like, all right. So we talk. All the credit to the 7 episodes. I would have never launched my podcast, I think, if I didn't talk to you, because I was so confused about what to do next. And like, I didn't know which mic to buy. I didn't even know to plug it into the goddamn computer.
Yeah.
And so my boy Blake hooked it up entirely, and all 7 episodes, I got to credit to you. And finally you're on the episode. And give a little bit of like who you are, I guess, and then we'll talk about what we're talking about.
Yeah, so Blake Jones, thank you for the introduction, first and foremost, and I'm glad I could be a part in you getting this started, because as soon as you reached out to me, it didn't take me long to see what was really important to you, and your morals, your values are just wide out there for everybody to see, and then
For the
of course
good,
look
for the
good.
bad or the,
Hey,
the
right.
good or the bad.
But that's one thing that was drawn to me, like transparent, very honest individual, comfortable with yourself, and I could see the work that you put in on you as an individual. And you meet people at certain points in their life, and you're like, oh, I know you weren't like this a few years ago.
Yeah, dude.
And I don't need to know the details to see the growth that's taking place. Whether it was you getting in a relationship or having a baby, like there's growth there. And same thing, when you recognize that, we're attracted to people that are focused on that kind of stuff, right? So me personally, I'm a registered nurse. I started nursing in 2019, and then started in the ICU in 2020 when COVID started. Yeah, good old COVID. And thought I was going to save the world, and was hit with a big old reality slap, but did a lot of learning, and also a lot of hurting. You know, it was a difficult time, but everything happens for a reason, even like this meeting here today. And so fast forward from 2020 to 2022, I went on a nursing travel assignment and found out my wife was pregnant. And then
Like after you left?
after I left, 2 weeks after I left.
Okay, so you leave, your girl takes a pregnancy
She
test.
didn't get pregnant while I was gone.
Of course. No, but what I mean is, trust me, I was in the Army. I get it. And so she takes a pregnancy test, just like, or she's texting you, hey, I'm missing my, like, just because I love these stories. Like, are you stressing?
So yeah, it was 2 weeks in. I'm at the gym. We're kind of texting back and forth about the plans she had going on. And she had been feeling a little strange. And it wasn't like any bad. It was just like she was telling me how she was feeling a little weird, but she felt fine. And there's something in my head. I don't know what it was. It was like, maybe you should take a pregnancy test. And then I'm working out. She calls me back. She's like, I just took it. It's positive. And I'm like, heart's already racing.
And where are you
just
at?
hit a set. I'm in Oklahoma City.
Okay, Oklahoma City, and she's here in Arizona?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So like 1.5 thousand miles away from each other. And I'm like, run to the locker room and had to sit for a second and run in my car. She took a second one and then just had to soak it in. And it was like the gears in your head start turning. I was like, oh, what the hell am I about to do? I already had these plans set and like how I was going to be making my money over the next couple of years. And a lot of that was going to revolve around me traveling. And
travel nurses were making,
right,
I mean, I know a few
right.
that were saying, oh, we make $6,000 a week. I'm like, what?
Yeah, going crazy. But the hours are crazy. So I'm working 4 shifts every week, pretty bad conditions and just busy. But I knew that I had to change something because at the time, I was still dealing with a lot of trauma from the pandemic, you know, and here I was away from my partner, and that was already more difficult than I had anticipated. And like I'm very open now that even during that time I was, you know, abusing alcohol to kind of mask some of the stuff that I was dealing with. And I was still working out hard though. So it was like nobody could really notice that I wasn't taking care of myself the way I should be. But
and it's like an internal excuse.
It's an internal excuse.
Like, but I'm still killing. Like this, I battled this so much. And really what it is ego.
Right.
For sure it's ego.
Yeah.
But it's like this internal excuse. I'm always like, I tell this to Rachel, I said, I've always been good enough. I've always been good enough. And that's got me so far in life. And it's like, if I never sit down in me versus myself, I'm just going to keep falling short of my potential.
It's not hard to please other people.
No.
But it's hard to please yourself.
Yeah.
And that's where you have to be honest with what you're doing, right? Because
Right.
what everybody else is looking at, it can look fine. But when you're, again, putting in the work on yourself, that's when you elevate and that's how you prevent yourself from falling apart. So I ended up having the opportunity to leave that assignment a couple weeks early, come back, get things in order, go back to personal training. Now I'm in what I call more of a health coaching role, so I can help people hit the complete aspect of health, not just working out, but their diet, their nutrition, their lifestyle, their routines. And I like to help them understand that all that's going to translate into how you interact with your business and your family and you as an individual. People want to look good, but there's so much more to it, right?
So I've noticed this too, or I've been wanting to ask you. So you are still in the nursing role.
So I'm a nurse on my own.
Nice.
I don't work in the hospital setting.
Right, which I gathered just now from what you just said. But that's awesome, man. And that's, like, is it fair to say holistic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Certainly. And people hear that word and they think like yoga. And
they think you're feeding people like tea and turmeric. Yeah, which maybe you are.
I believe in that stuff, and I think that everyone should be aware of their options. And I do believe that the options that come from the earth should be primary. But I'm also a believer of science, and so I do research on new therapies and new methods of fitness and health that should all be taken into consideration, because I expect to live 200 years.
Right.
Yeah. And so every decision I make today is going to put me in a position to be able to make that come to fruition.
Yeah.
And people underestimate the speed at technological innovation and, everything we were talking about with the technology behind video, audio editing, podcasts, and social media, all of that is tenfold in the healthcare setting. And you can't really see what's going on behind the scenes
until they roll it out.
And I've been on the side of saving lives, and we've saved people that should not have been saved.
Right.
And sometimes that was good, sometimes that's not so good.
Yeah.
But the ability is there. So we just have to put ourselves in the position to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Really.
I mean, we could spend a whole podcast on it, but the Neuralink thing.
Yeah. I'll come back and we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that on another episode. But okay, so your girl gets pregnant, you leave Oklahoma City, you come back to Arizona.
And so that timeline, it was January, we found out we were pregnant, had a baby in September, just like you. And everything changed just overnight, right?
Yeah.
And then you feel motivated, you feel scared, you feel excited, you feel proud, you feel worried, you feel like everything. You just feel, and that's so important.
On a deeper level too.
On a way deeper.
Once you have a child, like your emotions. I stitched something recently on TikTok because this girl's like, I'm thinking about having kids, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. She says, if you were on the fence about having kids and you had them, do you regret it? And be honest with me. Like, I get it. No one's going to say that you regret it, but like, what's your actual feelings? And I'm like, I almost want to tell people, like, if you're in the journey of enlightenment, whether you're Buddhist or not, but just in the journey of like like, I don't know that you could reach that without loving a child. Like, because that
was big that you said without loving a child, not without having a child.
Without loving a child. Yeah. I mean, I come from I have a biological father. We call him my sperm donor, but that's it, right? So I have no example of fatherhood in my life, and so it's like I won't use even mother or father. I'm just going to say loving a child. Like, I don't know that you can reach him, because the level of emotion that I feel for my daughter, it's new. It's never existed before, and so because of that, I'm kind of like, I don't know that I could ever open my third eye, enlighten whatever, without having known what true love is. People say that before, like, oh, I finally know what true love is.
Yeah.
Now I look at, how am I loving my partner? How am I loving myself? How am I loving my friends, my mother? Because, like, although it's a different relationship, the profound feeling I have for my daughter, is that translating across my other relationships?
Yeah.
And it's probably not, because it's so profound. You got to, like...
Yeah. And that true love is really unconditional love. And we
super
call ourselves giving that to other people. But when you actually do it towards your own child, or whatever child you're, like, really invested in, you feel the difference there. Yeah. And then you do have the opportunity to translate that into your other relationships. But a lot of people don't really take that opportunity.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it has to be intentional.
It does have to be intentional. You have to, it's like unconditional love is there. It exists. But if you're not working to access it or to maybe apply it, it can come off as just like, I see a lot of parents, and even of friends I have, of people close to me, and they're very like, oh, my dad just loves me. And I'm like, but like the application of love looks a little bit different than just loving. And I don't doubt that person loves you, but is it kind of like subordinate love? I don't mean subordinate, but maybe is it passive love? Yeah. Is it like...
It's like you feel obligated.
Yeah, like, and I care so much about them.
Yeah.
But, like, you have to apply that care.
Yeah.
And you have to apply that love, because the world's a scary place. Yeah.
And putting the effort into showing that love is something that most dads have to learn for the first time when they have a kid.
Yes.
Because our women pick up on it in a different way, and they figure out how to tolerate the way that we love, I feel. And, you can talk about the love languages and really trying to know somebody, but most people aren't bringing it down to a science when you fall in love with somebody and have a relationship, right?
It's just that spark. Like, it's not, it's almost opposite of science.
Right.
And they try to explain
act on it. And then, like you said, it gets so much deeper when you bring a kid into the picture. And then if you're blessed to be able to raise that kid with someone that you care about, right, the collaboration comes into play. So we're going to talk about that today, right?
I was just going to say, we'll talk about parenting styles, and we got a pretty good... This is the first time I've ever done a podcast with, like, bullet points, which is good, because I go off course a lot, and I've thought about that, but this is good. So we'll talk about... I love leadership, and this is going to, like, tie in. Yeah, this is going to tie in perfectly, because the leadership styles we got, which are authoritative, permissive, and authoritarian, those are parenting styles, but also all leadership styles, which is like a funny correlation that we could probably go into about the fact that they would correlate. But I'll explain them really quick. Authoritative is probably the one I agree with most, I'll say, early on, but it's kind of being there for your child, and it's giving them direction. I would say, like, I always frame it up as like, I'm giving you the tools to solve this problem, but I'm not telling you have to do something or else you're punished. And the reason why is because I said so, right? It's not that. And it looks like love and support. It looks like supporting them through tough things, but maybe even letting them go through it. Yeah. But like supporting them through it, right? Yeah. Permissive is just, what our culture talks is, they have a word for it, or a phrase for it.
There's another one, but it's basically gentle parenting.
Gentle parenting. There you go. That's what I was thinking. There's another one that's permissive is maybe a little above gentle parenting, but it's running to aid. It's not. I knew a lot of kids like this in high school. They didn't have a lot of rules. Right. They didn't have a lot of rules. There wasn't like, we don't really set punishments in this house. We don't really set rules. There's really no curfew. We're just there to support you. And like, it's kind of like your child's going through a lot of life. And I don't know if they're, and we'll talk about it more, but I'm like, I don't know if they have your hand in it. Right. And then authoritarian is probably more how I grew up with some of the stepdads and my mom's boyfriends, which was just, you're going to do this because I said so. There's really no love and support. It's exactly as it sounds. It's authoritative.
Dictatorship.
Dictatorship. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. So, I guess we'll talk pros and cons of each one, and I'll let you start on where you see yourself.
The big thing to me is balance. When it comes to parenting, I don't think there's a right or wrong way to go about it, but the approach has to be balanced, or else there's going to be some overflow in one area or the other. So like giving them the freedom to make decisions on their own. Yeah. But like you said, the authoritative approach is probably pretty important early in life because kids don't know how to make decisions for themselves.
Absolutely.
And then people want to put all this decision-making power in the hands of their child without teaching them the fundamentals, the foundations of all of these things that are going on around the world. You've talked about how sensory oriented your child is, and all kids are like that. They want to touch, they want to feel, they want to taste, and those are basic survival instincts, and everything above that makes us like actually high functioning humans, that takes time,
right?
And people put that power in the hands of their children way too early, in my opinion.
No, I actually agree with you. And I think I live so far in the future, which is the worst habit of mine. I need to spend more time being mindful. But like just now when we were talking about it, I'm like, oh, I agree with because I'm authoritative, because I'm already thinking about when Laguna's like 12, 13, and I'm like trying to set her up for success. But if I go back now and I think like, how could I not have a dictatorship today? I have to. Like my daughter can't decide when she wants to go to bed. She's 8 months old. Right. No, but even and your daughter's going to be 2 this September, and like she's talking now. So like can she just talk her way through your household? It's how you run your household is your business, but it's probably not a great
question, because yesterday was the first time that she really like intentionally raised her voice at me and my wife.
Okay, perfect.
And like the situation, it wasn't like a tense situation or anything at all, but me and my wife both stopped and looked at each other, and I was like, no. Yeah. I was like, you're not going to talk to us like that. And somebody may have been in that room and thought that I was being too hard on her, but the timing of your reactions and the magnitude of your reactions are really important. And my wife is so loving and caring that sometimes when my child acts out, she doesn't want to be mean to her. I'm telling her, like, it's not mean. She needs to know what happens when she makes those kind of decisions. Like now we're getting in that state where she can identify objects and she's trying to piece things together and develop these concepts. And so learning that communication is really important. And a lot of people don't think their kids have the capacity to do that when they first start talking, but that's a part of the puzzle that they're trying to figure out.
So much of parenting, I think, and like even raising or influencing in any capacity, like even being a sergeant in the army and raising soldiers, I like, you don't realize like how much you letting something go might elicit the response later. And I think of, for some reason, my brain, the whole time you're talking, I'm thinking of a piece of paper being laid down, and I imagine your child yelling at you and you do nothing about it. It's one piece of paper that gets laid down. And then over time, each time that child gets away with it, eventually you're going to have a printer stack of paper. And I'd love to watch you try to cut a printer stack of paper. It's going to be nearly impossible. Like take a printer stack of paper and try to rip it. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking technique for a phone book. I mean, like really try to rip a printer stack of paper. You're not going to be able to do it.
Right.
And so in the styles of parenting, it's like each time you allow that piece of paper to lay down or whatever, it could be a bundle of sticks, it's going to get harder and harder to break. Like you said, and you may think, well, she's not even 2 years old. She's not going to, she will. She will remember. Right. Like my daughter she knows when she screams, I'm going to go get it. And it's every time I let that decision happen, I think, oh my God, how much did I just influence the future? Right. You're laying seeds. You're classic saying,
trying
you're
to figure out
how
to get what they want.
Absolutely. You know, because you bring it back to like nature and nurture. Like it's a human nature to try to achieve what you want. And so that being said, like your child is trying to achieve what they want in any capacity. Yeah. And also I think when like you heard your daughter raise her voice, like if I see Laguna when I'm in those shoes too, I'll probably think like, what did I even do to get you to this point? Right. Like I'm like, oh damn.
That's a reflection.
I'm gonna have to pause this and get my dog. Rachel's going to get a kick out of the fact I just had to pause the podcast for him because he is hilarious. 21 minutes.
21.
All right. Yeah. Anyway, I think that each time you it's funny that you bring up parenting styles because I feel like each time you talked about the overflow in one or the other, each time you miss one, it's like this ever-laying brick formation where now there's like a hole in your defense. Yeah. And I hate to bring parenting to like a defense, but for a while there, it really is your child trying to figure out what you're made of.
Yeah, they're trying to manipulate you and figure out how they can always be satisfied because they don't know empathy. They don't know how to like take.
That's a learned skill.
Yeah,
empathy is a learned. It took me a long time. Not enough people talk about it, but emotional intelligence. That's what we should be teaching.
Yeah,
in school, like that's going to take you. Your EQ is going to take you so much farther in life than your IQ.
Yeah,
and it took me till probably a year ago to realize that. Like I'm still on the journey of EQ.
Yeah.
I try to unlock like so much.
And I know because of the word choices that you make, you talk about mindfulness and enlightenment and personal development and growth. Those aren't just normal topics that every young dad you meet is prioritizing.
Yeah.
And that's really what sets people apart in the business world and in your families, right? And
I think some people are stuck in the simulation still, bro.
Oh, yeah. I mean, most people are.
Yeah, and I hate to chalk it up as that. That's
but it's important because I've heard you say that a couple times too, and it's something that I'm afraid to say out loud at times. But again, you're so honest and transparent. But I just try to frame it in a different way so that people can understand. Like everything around us is very calculated. For us to be able to interact with each other without having significant issues is very difficult. So there are powers at hand that try to coordinate every little detail.
Yeah.
Right. And it comes down to our roads and our financial system, our educational system. Like none of that's by accident.
Right.
People sat down and made decisions, and here we are living within it without having any second thought. So those are things to be aware of because you use the word simulation, and we're all interacting in our own little version of the same thing.
Yeah.
And we have to cross interact. And that's very troubling for people because we don't have that empathy and we don't have that awareness.
Right.
And we have to give each other grace for how we're perceiving this experience. And that ties into parenting very much so, because adding a new human into your life that is trying to figure out everything we just mentioned and all the basic stuff can be difficult because now you have to find time to really sit and think about yourself. And it's kind of hard to prioritize an entire other life and still prioritize yourself in that manner. But when you get lost in your own self-development and trying to focus on your child so much, that's going to overflow in another way as well, which you can't really let happen.
And it's funny because how much they intertwine is a little bit scary. Like you focusing on yourself is benefiting your child.
Right.
But you focusing on yourself is taking away from your child. And you focusing on your child is, benefiting you. And
balance.
Having my child has grown my empathy so much because even Rachel's asked me sometimes, she's like, how do you not get so frustrated sometimes? And I'm like, I literally look at her and I say, you're a human that doesn't understand anything I'm saying. Yeah. And like, you have to have subtle reminders.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, if someone was in the room, like just put yourself, like take yourself out. Yeah. I think people fail to realize empathy is the idea that you're literally out of your shoes and in other shoes. And you have to put yourself in the position of like, wait, you don't understand anything I'm saying. You don't understand anything that's coming at you, life at all. And so when we talk about these parenting styles, it's like, of course you want to be the way I'm talking, it makes it sound like, of course, I want to live in permissive and just be like, I'm here to support you. Like, oh my God, it must be so scary. But like at the same pace, like when my daughter's crawling over to the bin that has Windex in it, I gotta be like, dog, no.
Yeah, like, and be firm about it so she understands. Because if you're like, oh baby, like you don't need it, like they don't take it seriously.
Yeah, they don't, because a lot of what my mom said this my whole life, it's not what you say, it's how you say it sometimes. Right. Yeah. And it's like, hey, no, we can't. Like we can't do that.
And that's where we step in as fathers, because the female side is always going to have that a higher level of empathy, with that higher level of unconditional love, and we're able to break that and kind of be stern, but you want it to be controlled, and the control is what people lose sight of as well. You can snap on them for doing something, or you can very intentionally and consciously reprimand them, without having to lay hands on them. Having had a child now, I told Rachel when I had a child, I'm like, everybody that's ever abused, never mind, my mom is perfect. She's my saving grace in life. But like the people that were around other than that, and I'm like, how do you, like, what's sick inside of you? Like, I'm not going to create a whole podcast about
hitting your child, but I'm like, because I can't look at my daughter and think of anything but protection.
I mean, it goes into the authoritarian style, though,
Yeah.
like that dictatorship and having.
They really believe that.
Needing that level of control. I learned that I can't control nearly as much as I would prefer.
Yeah.
And that's hard to cope with at times.
Yeah.
But
that's what grows you, though.
That's what grows you, letting go and that detachment from the outcome. And sometimes, like you said, being present gives you the opportunity to do that because you're more aware of your actions.
Yeah, I think that I'm like struggling now to understand, because you might raise a good kid and be good kids come out in every direction, right? You might I'm not going to label good kid, but let's, for the sake of conversation, say good kid. And an authoritarian or you're permissive, you might get a good kid out of it. Like Rachel will tell you, she's one of the first people that's like, my parents, I had no curfew. They didn't really care what I did. And she turned out great. Obviously, I love her to death, so she's good enough, right? Yeah. And so great girl. And in my world, it was very authoritarian. You're going to do this, you're going to do that. And I came out, I'll say okay for myself, but we ended up matching together. Right. But it's like, how many decisions along the way did I have to make on my own, receive the repercussion, reap and sow, eat shit to be where I'm at today? Mm-hmm. And so like, it's not that I think my child is going to be a good kid or a bad kid or a piece of shit kid or a valedictorian. It's not that. It's that I don't want her to have to go through the trauma I went through and go through the lessons that I went through in order to achieve the things that I have to achieve. And
that's our responsibility, kind of lessen that burden. And then it gives them more opportunity to learn and grow and be aware at an earlier age rather than thinking that it's their responsibility to survive. I'm here to make sure my daughter survives. I'm going to provide you with all the essentials. Right. So don't worry about that. Worry about being a kid, worry about growing and understanding the world. But I think a lot of times permissive parenting makes the child think that they're in charge of their survival. And then so they're trying to make adult decisions and they're not able to be creative and imaginative because they try to be a grown-up. And
at some point they reach like a level of consciousness where they're like, I don't really have anything but like, good job, honey, from my mom or dad or whatever. Like they reach a point where they're like, they get asked a question potentially. They're faced with, I mean, it could be heavy, like having sex for the first time where they're like, they don't know where to go because no one's ever made decisions for them. You know what I mean? Like that's permissive parenting might put you in a box of just like, my parents will kind of support whatever I do. Yeah. And they'll just be there to coddle me through it. Yeah. And it's like, that puts you in a dangerous position to, like you said, just now that kid's got to be an adult really early on. And you're just not in the position to, like, the growth I've had at 25, the brain I have at 25. If I had this brain at 15, I'd be Elon Musk. Right. Like, I hate to say that, but like nothing, the only thing that slowed me down in life is myself. Right. Truly.
Always. Because, everybody.
Yeah. I was given just like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it took me going through hardship and me inflicting hardship. Yeah. In order to like get where I'm at. Like I had to inflict a lot of what I later sowed. And I just don't want my daughter to live that. I just don't want her to have to inflict that. Necessary. It's not necessary. Yeah. Yeah. Like I made a TikTok about this and it went relatively viral, I guess you could say, because a lot of people resonated. I'm like, you want to know my goal for this thing, dude? And I refer to my daughter like that sometimes, but I'm like, you want to know my goal for this girl is that when I was in school, you would find the kids that had trauma too. And like, they would be the cool kids. And like the kids that had that white picket fence home, I'd be like, oh, like they're boring. Like I want my daughter to be boring. Yeah. Like I want her to go to school and be like, oh, I'm not going to make that decision because that's lame. Yeah. Like I don't want to, you know what I mean? But I have to set her up with success. And it looks like these parenting styles.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I really do. Like I thought these trauma stricken kids, misery loves company. I thought they were so much more woke. I thought they were, and really their EQ was in hell. Right. And so was mine.
But they've made decisions that make them look more like an adult.
That was, how you just worded it was perfect. Yeah. They've done things in front of me. They've made decisions that I've made that we can only correlate that with another adult. Like I don't look at your white picket fence life and see the correlation between me and you. You know, I'm worried about, I'm not going to say my next meal, but I'm worried how I'm going to shoulder this punishment of this decision that I'm going to make. And you're just turning in your homework and going home and asking mommy for a peanut butter sandwich. Yeah. Like I want my daughter to have that. Yeah, I want my daughter live this life, they bring it up like stress free, where her job is to be a kid. You already said it.
Yeah.
I want my daughter to be exactly the age she is each year.
My dad used to always tell me that, like, don't try to grow up too fast. And that's really difficult for a child to understand why somebody would say that. And the why is so important because kids ask why all the time. And that drives people crazy.
Your daughter's talking now, right?
Yeah.
How often does she ask why?
She hasn't figured that one out yet, but she'll point at things and be like this, and then you tell her what that is, and she's like this and this. Like everything needs to be identified, and so the next is going to be why.
Why?
And I'm excited for that because I want to explain to her why. Like, Daddy does all this research so he can understand why and help educate you. So whenever you are curious about something, I appreciate that. And I want you to get the answer because I want you to learn. I want you to be curious. But I always refer to the term curiosity killed the cat as being so destructive to young minds because curiosity is what allows us to grow. And if you're not curious about anything, then you're never going to put yourself in a situation to really have any breakthroughs in your life, right?
I always say uncomfortability breeds success.
Right.
And I'm like, the times that I've been most uncomfortable are the times that I've been like, I've reached for the stars the highest or like and I'm not saying every personality type will do that, honestly. But, but
that's the difference between like leaders and not leaders, I will say.
Yeah. And speaking of which, like, I think we'll get into leadership a little bit already because I have to ask you this. Do you think leaders are born or is it a learned capability?
I think both. I think there's leaders that have been born that didn't get the right opportunity to actually lead. I think there are people who learn to lead from having a good leader and, everything in between. But being a leader, it takes a decision.
Yeah.
You know, you can have all the leadership qualities, and then if you have no interest in being a leader, then what does it turn
You just
into?
have a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
You're
There's
just
a
a
lot
really
of
smart
knowledge
guy.
and potential and capability that never gets tapped into. And some people really want to be leaders, but they don't have the decision-making skills or the critical thinking that comes behind it, or their emotional intelligence isn't high enough, right? So they might be strategic in their thought and have all of these ideas and organization, but if you can't motivate a team or coordinate people, then where does that put you, right? So I think most people that have what it takes to be a leader need one last puzzle piece to really give them that lift off to be able to jump on one of those opportunities. I'm sure you being in the military was part of you like really getting into your leadership capabilities.
I think that's
right?
where I learned that leadership was a topic or like a you could write a thesis on it per se. I never really knew that. I always heard, Ricky, you're a natural born. I was a trouble child, right? You're a natural born leader, but you use it for the wrong thing, right?
People gravitate towards you and want to be like you.
You have high charisma, like things like that, and you're just always using it for the wrong shit, right? And I'm like, yep, cool. So I actually was kind of turned off by leadership for a long time. I'm like, this sounds awful. I remember my friends' parents would be like, I don't want you hanging out with them because I would influence them, but I would not be a direct attack to influence them. They would just be influenced. And I say that in the least hubris way, but it's really the truth. And so I think as I grew into the Army and I realized like, this is a topic, this is a subject, this is something people teach, learn, graduate with. I'm like, wait, this is kind of beautiful. And I think that when it comes to parenting, like I'm not, like I said, I had a single mom, so she was my leader, but I am going to bring up like as my role as a father, I do feel like the leader of the family.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that Rachel can't be.
Right.
It doesn't mean that she can't lead through tons of things. Like she probably leads the family in forgiveness because she is a much more forgiving person than I am. I'm quick to just be like, no, fuck that. I just am. But I do find myself when we talk about these parenting styles and like confidence and how I build up my daughter, like you kind of have to show the way.
Oh yeah.
And so I think that when we talk about what are you doing for yourself or like you're avid in fitness, I just placed my vote for Blake to be men's health and fitness.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Also, if you guys, it'll be in his story for sure, but you guys can vote for Blake to be on the front of a magazine. You're in what, third right now?
Yeah, I'm in third. I gotta get to first by Thursday.
Okay.
So appreciate the shout out.
I dropped this today, so I'll post about it too.
Perfect.
But anyway, I think that if you're not doing those things to show what it looks like, and I'm not saying being the cover of a magazine is being a leader,
right.
but if you're not taking actionable steps for your child to later apply, and this is at even the youngest of ages, like oftentimes people say Laguna's so calm with you. She's so this, and I'm like, I'm telling you right now, I know you don't want to hear this. It's my energy.
Right.
I know you don't. I know you want me to say that I'm doing something special. I'm not. It's just that I am this confident with her. Like,
and I love that you say that though, because I would discount and be like, yeah, she's just so special. I've always known. And it's true. Like, she is special. And I felt that since the day she was born. But we also don't give ourselves enough credit because this baby is modeling everything off of us.
Everything. They don't. I mean, these babies come out and they don't have a goddamn clue.
Nothing.
Like,
they're confused by the light that's shining in their eyes from the ceiling.
Like, I'd love to tell you that your baby comes. The one thing they know how to do is latch or try to. They try to suck on your partner's boob. Yeah, and that is about it. And some babies don't. Some babies end up not latching. Right. Laguna didn't latch for 3 months. Like, outside of that, she's modeling everything off of me and Rachel and how we approach things. And when people I'm one of those firm believers, like, when you give your acceptance speech for your big award, like, go ahead, thank God, thank this, thank that, but thank yourself. Like, the work you put in, and it comes off hubris. Yeah, it comes off hubris, but I'd hate to discount, like, your journey. Like, you're not in the running for this role. Yeah, exactly. You're not in the running for this magazine because you sit on your ass. You're just not. You know what I mean? You're not an RN that helps in all these ways because you sat on your ass. You know what I mean? You got through real trial and tribulation. And it took me a long time to give myself credit for those things. Like, I refused to give myself credit. I actually thought I was one of those people that, like, I just made it through tough shit. Yeah. Like, that's lucky. Why people are like, man, you're really, you're wise for your age. I'm like, I've been through a lot. Right. Same. But it's like, I learned a lot. I chose to take it in, and I chose to learn a lot too.
A lot of people have been through the same or 10 times more and didn't come out with one lesson from it. Right?
Absolutely. And I think that brings me to so many conversations of, like, how people respond, like people that turn to alcohol, people that turn, like, what is it that drives you, and what drives you out of it too? Like, we're all faced with the same decision. You know what I mean? I do think addiction's a disease. I think that people are susceptible to it. Absolutely. And I also think that after being sober for 20 years, if you choose to pick up a drink again, like, there's a little bit of a choice there. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think I see, there's a big different disconnect
for everyone, you know, because I was just talking to someone recently who, he had liver failure and he's recovered. And so he's in a different situation. But I'll talk about, I've had times in my life where I didn't use alcohol appropriately. And when it's in a way that you have to recognize yourself and it's not bad enough for other people to recognize, that doesn't mean that it's not a problem, but it's like, how do you want to go about it? Do you want to label yourself as an alcoholic and go through it that way and have to stay away from it for the rest of your life? Or do you want to try to get some level of self-control and awareness so that you can engage in certain social activities without feeling so stressed about rejecting alcohol or feeling so stressed about the fact that you want to have a drink that you're going to cascade into something negative, right?
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, like, I don't know if you did this to yourself. Did you ever build it up to be worse than it was? Like, did you ever think, like, oh, I'm an alcoholic, like, I have a problem? And was it, you know what I mean? Because you see people that actually struggle with
there's
this.
Different standards, right? I wasn't like showing up to work drunk or anything like that,
Did you ever build it up to be like, wow, were you hard on yourself, I guess is what I'm saying?
That's a good question. At that time, no. Because I know that I wasn't harming anyone except myself. Okay. And so, like, the way that I looked at it was relatively calm, I feel. And it was at a point where I had made other mistakes in my life that did affect other people. And so just being able to reflect and be honest with myself was important because, again, nobody else was going to recognize it except myself. And actually, my dad asked me when he found a tequila bottle in the recycling bin, and I denied it. Right. Okay. And the same thing happened with my mom throughout the pandemic. At one point, she asked if I was depressed, and I denied it, and that's where the problem comes into play when you're not honest with yourself and you're not honest with the people that love you and really want to help you, because they can't do anything for me if I tell them, no, nothing's wrong. Like, that was their role. That was, I mean, they tried. Right. So, that I learned from those situations a lot easier than I could have, because letting depression spiral is never good. Letting alcoholism spiral is never good. But luckily I didn't spiral down. I just spiraled back up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And but you're one of the cases that did. And it could have never been that bad to start. But it's like you said, those people's role, and, like, to bring it back to parenting, like, if you ever saw your daughter or I ever saw my daughter in that role, like you want to think that you asking is going to get the honest answer. Like you want to build up your child to be able to share that with you.
There's decisions leading up to that make them comfortable to talk to you about those things, right?
Yes. And I think that I bring this question up a lot. You tell your kid, hey, never get in a drunk driver's car. Just call me. Like, I'm not going to be mad at you. I'll pick you up. It really depends how you respond to that. How are you really not going to be mad? And how do you balance? And I guess I'll just ask you, because I talk about this all the time and I'm curious everybody's answer. How do you balance reminding them that the fact that they're drunk about to get in a drunk driver's car is a terrible idea? Like, how do you balance the reprimand, but also balance the support?
Yeah. I think for me, it still all comes down to education. A lot of kids don't realize how destructive it is to their bodies and their brains to be getting drunk underage.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that there's a reason, there's a limit on alcohol. And like not only how much you can drink before you drive outside of Arizona, no zero tolerance state, but also the age that comes with it. And a lot of kids want to perform. They want to do well. They want to be successful. And we're not really told how to make that happen.
Right.
So if you understand the importance of performance and all the things you can do to diminish your opportunities, I think that kids make decisions a little bit differently. But we all think we're indestructible and we don't see the gravity of our decisions, and we're fighting for this autonomy and we want to make decisions for ourselves, and we don't know why our parents are being controlling, and the why comes into place again.
All my friends are doing it.
Yeah, all my friends are doing it. It's like, well,
and they're still at like, I think it's like they look at what matters to them. So if like, first period on Monday matters to them and all their friends are at first period on Monday, but they were all drunk on Friday night. Like, why can't I get drunk on Friday? Right. I don't understand. They're doing everything I want to do.
Yeah.
Everybody on the football team or the cheerleading team is doing it.
Because kids can't see into the future. Kids live in the moment.
Right.
And that's one thing.
And it's beautiful, but it's also.
Right. Because we lose track of it completely. Like, you have to be able to be in the moment, but we also make decisions based off of what we want our future to look like. And kids just make decisions based off of the moment. So that's where we step in.
All right. If there's a weird cut there, it's because my dog is a psycho and I had to get him during this podcast because I'm so worried about his mental health. But we're going to pick back up everything we've talked about parenting, and we're going to talk about support systems. So I think there's two angles of support system. There's supporting your child, which is, does it take a village? And then there's like, do you have support? Like you just brought up your parents asking you if you're okay. Like that's a support system. And I guess what does it look like to find those, and how do you vet your support system? Like, because there's a lot of people that are supporting you, but sometimes their values, and we could touch on values because I was in here too and I love values, like they don't align with you. And like their values legitimately don't align. So the advice they're giving, like it doesn't align with the support that you need.
Right. And that I think happens very often, and it can be frustrating, but again, the intention's important. So you have to know who the individual is and take everything with a grain of salt, but also don't take it personally when somebody feels like they have something to offer for you. Because I know I've had times, especially as a parent, like you want to feel like you're doing a good job as a parent automatically. So someone else might have their opinion on what you're doing, and we're not all good at voicing that opinion. And so we just have to keep that in mind, that maybe that person just wants to help. They might not know really the whole situation, but their perception, they feel like there's something that they can offer. Right. And everyone wants to help each other out. We're just not all good at offering the help in the proper way.
Yeah. And I think it's so funny. Oftentimes I look at the person receiving and like, this is everything you brought up, like, is the person helping? Is their intent to help, right? And like maybe I don't need to take their advice because they're trying to help me, but it's not hitting me where it needs to.
Right.
But oftentimes I kind of think of the people that only consume the support and that they want to consume. Yeah. And like I see this so much that I look at my daughter, and one of my biggest wishes for her is to be accountable internally, and that she doesn't only consume support or media or validation when and where she wants to. I've watched people watch a video and say like, oh, this part aligns with me, but the same sentence out of the same person's mouth, oh, that part doesn't, because they don't want to hear that tough feedback. And so I think when I think of support systems, I'm like, a support system looks like someone that maybe not all their values align and their intent is to help, like let's vet those two things, but that is genuinely honest with you.
Yeah.
And a support system's only really there if you allow that system to be built around you and you let it stand on 2 feet, because too many times I'm around people that I'm not even giving advice. They'll be like, oh, you know, my dad said that I need to stop, you know, going out and partying so much. And he did, like in college, he did the same, you know what I mean? They don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
But when their dad says that they need to, you know, I don't know, register their car or whatever, they're like, oh yeah, I'll take that support. True. You know what I mean? And it's
because they know the consequences more directly. And that's where we have to let our kids know the why. Because if they understand the consequences, then they're more likely to listen. But sometimes we tell them what to do because we know it's the right thing to do and we know what it'll result in, but we don't take the time to explain that to them. And even my baby down less than 2 years old, sometimes I explain to her, like, you can't do that because you'll get hurt.
Right.
Whereas some people say, no, don't do that. You know,
and it's left at that.
Right. And we have to understand, like, our kids understand those things. She knows what it means to get hurt at this point. Right. Yeah. So just remind her. And, you know, sometimes she'll be in something that isn't going to necessarily harm her, but I'll tell her it's going to hurt her because I know that's what's going to keep her away from it. Right. And so you just have to have different levels of communication depending on who you're dealing with. So even when it comes to offering support to a parent, sometimes it needs to be because you see what is going on with their child or what's going on in their relationship or what's going on with them, right? But not everyone wants to be told how to parent or how to manage their relationship or how to manage themselves. So it has to be wanted.
Right.
And I know I've had a problem with giving unsolicited advice.
I was just going to say, you have to solicit it.
Yeah. So, having a conversation before you offer the information can be valuable as well. Give the person the opportunity to reveal what they need rather than you pinpointing it yourself and trying to
frame it up. Hey, can I give you some feedback?
Yes.
Like, hey, can I
ask for permission?
Yeah. You know what I mean? Frame it up. I always say there's 2 methods to like really being someone's support system. And you can, one, and this is a powerful one, is say, hey, at the end of this conversation, I want you to feel like this, right? So like, yo, Blake, at the end of this, bro, like, and you're already like, wait, at the end of this, what are you about to say? Like which is good. You're already, let's not say putting up walls, but your expectations are growing, which is good.
Changes.
Yeah, I want your expectations to grow because I want you to take this hard or I want you to take it fairly. And so I might say, hey, at the end of this, man, I want you to know I love you to death. And like, I think you're a great guy, bro. But you know, when you spank your daughter in front of me, Blake, that's never happened. But you know what I mean? Like, hey, dog, like that parent to parent, bro, like, it makes me uncomfortable, straight up. Like, and I don't want my daughter to see that. So like, you got to keep that shit. Part. Yeah, because like I can't control what you do.
You shouldn't do that, but like when my kids are around,
100%. And I have to bring that up because what you do in your home, hey man, you're the leader of your household. Go ahead, man. If you're specifically around my family, around my daughter, like you've kind of opened the door for me to tell you I'm uncomfortable with it because now you've made it my business.
And we set the standard together if we're going to operate together. And
exactly.
Some people are afraid to voice that something makes them uncomfortable, and then it manifests in a different way and people get upset, and you never even let them know that it was that one thing that was causing the issue.
And I think if we want to touch on values too, like a value of mine is, people call me confrontational, but a value of mine is, you know, voicing. I really respect and I really think it's important to be able to bring up when you're uncomfortable. And it hurts my heart to see people pleasers. It hurts. Rachel is a people pleaser. I love her, and she'll laugh if she hears this.
So is my wife.
And I'm like, yo, it's not that I want you to be rude, and you don't have to act like me.
But let people know.
Boundaries are so vital. And now, like, since this whole episode's about parenting, now you have a tiny little female human,
and it's not about my ego, it's about protecting her.
Absolutely. It's not about what I want you to do when I'm not around. It's not about that I want you to stand up for yourself because you're my woman. Like, take all that out of that. It's that my daughter is looking directly at you and she's saying, what's mommy gonna do? I want to do that too. And like, my daughter oftentimes will give my girlfriend the feeling that she loves me a lot, right? And so my girlfriend will be like, you better smile for me the way you smile for your daddy. But I oftentimes bounce it back and I'm like, yo, I don't think you understand though. There will come a time when she's going to want to be like mommy.
Right. See, I'm in the opposite right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So daughter loves me, excited to see me, but when she needs consoling or something, she's immediate to mommy. And sometimes I'm like, oh, it's okay, baby. And she's like, no, mommy.
Right.
Because, I mean, that's just kind of what it's developed into. And I've thought at times like, man, am I not like compassionate enough? Like, does she not feel comfort with me? But it just comes in different situations. Right?
Yeah. So Rachel will say like, how do you make her calm or blah, blah, blah. But sometimes she really does want mommy, and I can tell, like if she hits her head or something. It's hard for me to explain and wrap my head around this with Rachel and even coach her through it, because I only had a mommy, right? And so like my mommy, like I tell her Happy Father's Day. Like that is my rock. That's my everything. She's always been there through everything. I owe her my life. And so because of that, I don't really know where the father role comes in. Yeah. I'm still figuring that out too. And a lot of people have joked with me. Rachel's family has joked with me. They're like, if you could breastfeed, you would, huh? Right. And I'm like, I think so. But I have no example of what it means to be a father. Yeah. And so,
but you don't use it as an excuse.
No, absolutely not. I don't use it as an excuse.
And I've seen people do that.
Absolutely. Oh, and we talked about this earlier though. It's like, what route do you choose to go given your circumstances? So there's people that have been through the same things I've been through in life, and they've chosen a completely different route in life. And that's really not paid off. And it's really made them a shitty person. Yeah. And I think, I'm not going to get into everything, but when you've been through abuse, physical, emotional, verbal, when you've been through that type of stuff, it's really easy to get caught up in this cycle of like, that's what I'm going to do to my kid. Yeah. And you don't even think that, because you probably are thinking, I never want this to happen to anyone. You just but it's your first reaction, right? Yeah. Yeah. In the Army, we say, when shit hits the fan, when that bomb explodes, you go back to the first 10% of your training. And so take that into parenting. Yeah. So if you don't rework your mindset, and I want to stay on values. If you don't develop values, and I have a podcast episode about values, if you don't develop values and you don't believe in them, I'm going to be able to sniff that shit out. Yep. Because I'm going to know like, oh, that's not really important to you, bro. You just heard that somewhere. Like you need to, and I know I have a whole episode about it, so I'm not going to waste anybody's time, but like you really need to figure out what your values are if you're about to have a kid. Like I want to encourage listeners, if you're about to have a kid and that's why you're listening to this, because I know I have a lot of soon to be parents on here, like start figuring out your values, what actually matters to you. Right. And me and Rachel got pregnant after 2 months. So we're figuring that out together. And
on the fly.
Yeah, on the fly. And it's hard, bro. And it's something that I talked to her about. I'm like, babe, what are your values too? And we're good. Like we've figured it all out, but like not all of it out, but for where we're at now. And if you don't know that, it's hard raising a kid. You know what I mean? One thing Rachel will kind of proudly tell anybody, like she's been on antidepressants and they help her out a lot, and mental health's very important to Rachel. But I come from a household where like you don't really talk about what you're going through, right? And you just kind of shoulder. And I'm in this vicious cycle of being a man too, and we don't talk about it often. Yeah, when your parents asked if you were depressed, how easy was it for you to say no?
It was. I didn't think twice about it.
Yeah, why would you?
Yeah, because I'm. And I believe this. I know that it's always going to be okay. But
that's such a trap, though.
Right.
That's such a trap, dude.
Because it might not be okay right now. And that's what I was really neglecting, the present moment where I needed help now. And I could be okay faster in the future if I'm just honest and vulnerable and transparent. But I'm like, no, it's going to be all right. I'm going to make it through this. I don't need help.
Yep. And it's like a weird thread to tie, but I'll tie it. It's kind of like my whole life I've felt like I'm good enough. Yep, I will make it through it. So like, what's the point of bringing you in? Like, why would I even bring you in on this, dog? Like when my friends are like, bro, if you were struggling, you should have just told me. I'm like, why though? Right. I was going to get through it.
I can figure it out. I figured it out before, Exactly. But it doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to suffer alone, and everything's a lot easier with the team approach.
So support systems. How do you invite support systems? Actually, Blake walked in my house and I literally said, how the hell do you make friends? I don't know how to make friends, bro.
Yeah, Ricky's new to Arizona, so we need to get a little dad club going for him.
And I'm like, dude, should we get like a dad run club? Should we I want to do shit like that. And you know what's sick as a man is that even if I started a dad run club, I would go do the run club, lead it, and I would love leading it. And then I'd walk away and be like, I don't want to get drinks after. Like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? It's sick, dude. So like, how do you get a support system? What's the key factors to it?
Communicating.
Okay.
I think people need an invitation sometimes for that role. And I know that me I thought all my friends were going to be so excited for me to have a kid, and they were just going to be present. And it's like, oh.
Man, the way I tell you, people don't give a fuck when you have a kid.
Yeah, but I mean, nor really should they. Like, it's exciting, but this is my life changing, and
absolutely,
it's a large responsibility.
Yeah,
it comes with a whole lot of baggage, and it's never going to impact someone else the way that it impacts you. And that's something that I just thought everyone was going to be so excited, and they're excited, but the presence kind of fades away from certain people, which is natural and it's okay. But you have to find that new circle, and parenthood is an experience that nobody can relate to unless they're going through it. So I think that it's in everybody's best interest to make sure they at least know some other parents, preferably people in a similar stage in parenthood, because we're early in parenthood, right? It's a little different.
It could be hard if you said, oh, my daughter's 7.
Right.
We're not really going to line up.
Or I have 4 kids, you know, and the oldest or the youngest is 12 years old, you know?
Right.
So we're at different stages.
Every time I tell you something, you're going to be like, it'll be fine, dude.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
And like I hear the things you're going through, and we're able to relate. So you need to find someone you can relate to, but you also want people that have already been through it. You want that level of support as well.
There's like this tight little window where like, so your daughter's going to be 2 in September, my daughter's going to be 1. I hate to say it, it's almost the perfect window. Yeah. Like, I hate to line you up and be like, Blake, you're the guy. But like, you're kind of the guy. You're ahead of me is like, you know, we're facing walking at the same time. Mm-hmm. Like soon, my daughter will probably walk in the next 3 months, and your daughter's probably still wobbling. So it's like we're facing that at the same time. But you know, when I am freaking out that my house is burning down, figuratively, you're like, whoa, I promise it's okay. When I say, hey, Laguna raised her voice at me today, you're like, oh, I remember that, man. Because it wasn't so long ago.
Right, exactly.
And so, I think that communication is vital with support systems. And I think that where you lose sight of support systems, if you're looking to support someone, or if you want a support system, is I heard this a lot being framed up when I was about to have Laguna, like, there's so much fear mongering.
Yeah.
And people think that's support.
You have to stay away from that.
Yeah. And people think that's support.
Right.
Really, they do. They think that
they're
sitting
preparing you for what's to come.
That's the perfect way to put it. People sitting at your baby shower saying, oh, you're fucked on sleep. Like, they think that's helpful.
Yeah.
And I started this whole, Rachel will tell you, I started this whole TikTok account and this whole Instagram channel and everything that To Be Ricky has turned into, because I was so fucking irritated that people told me all this shit. And then I end up having my daughter, I look her in the eyes, and I think, oh my God, you're the greatest thing.
That's the best experience.
My soul got unlocked.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, wait, why were people fear mongering me?
And I tell people, like, you want that experience.
Yes.
Like, yes, it's hard. Yes, it's stressful. Yes, sleep sucks with my daughter. And,
us too, so don't worry.
Right.
Yeah, us too.
I meet people sometimes, they're like, my daughter sleeps through the night. I'm like, F you.
I'm like, fuck you. Yeah, no, but we're still getting up 3 times a night.
None of the bad that comes with having a child makes it that I would not want to have a child.
Or it's not even relatively close.
Not even close.
Like it's funny, not to insult anybody's stage of life, but I look back to the things I was doing 2 years ago, and I think I was fucking corny. I'm like, and it's like sad to say, because why would I be? There's no point in being 21 with a kid sometimes. Like, I probably had a lot of financial and mental and all these things, growth that I needed before I had a child. I'm happy that all the growth I had before I had my daughter. But I'm like, damn, I would have done this when I was, you know, it's the most profound feeling in the world.
Yeah.
Rachel says it all the time. She's like, I'm so glad we had our daughter, and none of my friends have kids. But like, when they go to have kids, I'm going to be a little bit jealous that they get to feel this feeling, because it's that vital. It's that amazing.
Yeah, and you can't explain it to them until it happens. So you're like, hey, try this out.
It's all those dads that tell you. Some dads will tell you, like, bro, when you look at your kid, you're gonna feel, and you think, like, right before I had my kid, I'm like, yeah, bro, I bet it's crazy.
Yeah.
And then it happens, and I mean, dude, I looked at my daughter and everything I'd ever been through, abuse. You know, I've been in trouble with the law, let's say, like, whatever I had been through in my life that has gotten me where it's gotten me, all made sense. I'm like, oh, that's why I went through all that.
Because you see through it all, through them. You
exactly.
See, like, just this level of purity and innocence that you wish you could get back to, but you know you can. But at the same time, that perspective of how beautiful the world is very evident through their eyes. And you're looking into their eyes and you see how they look at you and how interested they are in all the little details. And then you start to look that way. You're like, dang, I see how she looks at me. I want to look at stuff like that. And you're like, whoa.
Absolutely.
Oh.
It's enlightening. Like, her innocence is really enlightening.
Yeah.
Like you said, living in the moment, like, I don't know if this happens to you, but when I see my daughter play with a toy, like a stationary toy, I think I'm like, me and Rachel have this joke, like, bro, that's so cute. I could pass away right now.
Yeah.
Because I think like you're literally sitting there entertained by like,
when's the last
time we were entertained by a toy with wheel, like a wood block with wheels?
Right. A block. That doesn't even have wheels.
That doesn't even have wheels.
Like just turning it over. And the first time I ever saw my daughter like play pretend was a couple days ago, where she had a little figurine, a human, and she's like making it walk around and do stuff. And I was like, oh my God, wow. And she got her first Barbie. And so just like understanding outfits and all of the movements and like actually using her imagination is so cool to see that happen.
Absolutely.
Because they're like at a little potato phase sometimes where you're just like, okay, you don't do much, but you're fun.
Yeah.
And you giggle. But when they start like taking things into their own hands, and that you see that initiative and that desire to learn and be creative.
Really, anytime you see emotion, like I see my daughter get happy when she gets in my car versus my girlfriend's, because there's toys that she hasn't seen. And I think this girl's literally happy because she's seeing toys she missed.
Yeah.
That kills me inside, dude. Yeah. Like in the best way. Like it makes me like thankful to be alive.
Yeah. Because they're grateful.
Because they're grateful.
Yeah.
It's gonna absolutely kill the squeak. All right, so we'll close up a little bit, but I do want to talk about this because I thought it was exciting. But dealing with failure and growth, I kind of want to know like what's not only you dealing with failure and growth, but like passing on to your daughter. How do they overcome failure and growth? Because I actually wanted to say this earlier when you said we're all living in this like our own little box and how do we interact. I've always wanted to like write a book on what I'd say is relative happiness or something or relative sadness. So like I'm pretty sure that although Kim Kardashian lives in a $40 million mansion, I'm just as happy with my couch as she is with hers because I worked really fucking hard for this and my wife enjoys it.
She probably doesn't appreciate her couches.
Probably not. But what I mean is like when this got put in my home, I may have had the same level of dopamine release that she did when she bought a $40 million home, even though I rent this villa. And so it's like when we talk about failures and overcoming it, like your daughter could fail at her math test, and that might be the same as my daughter, losing the game for her whole soccer team.
I'm actually looking forward to those moments.
Yeah. How do you coach through?
Because when you want to grow, the failure is necessary, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And so as soon as she fails, we're going to learn why and make sure that whatever the next failure is does not come for the same reason, but the failure is an opportunity. And I was someone that didn't really experience much failure until I became an adult. So it was like in college, didn't get into nursing school the first time I applied, and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I just expected to get, like, I've never been nervous about tests. I'm the type, if you studied and you're prepared, then it's whatever. Like, I'm there, I'm here to take it. I've been putting in the time, but I didn't get a score that was necessary to get into a school that had a 6% acceptance rate. And there's levels to our efforts. And I was kind of just coasting through my education. And so that was a wake up call for me, that just little taste of failure. I still got into nursing school the next semester, didn't really do much except to my ego, right?
Yeah.
And
I think that's where failure always hurts, though.
Right.
It's always going to be your ego.
Right. Because it's never that big of a deal, but it'll hurt your pride. And then we think that other people are disappointed in us or they expected so much, but like really, that was your expectations you didn't live up to.
Absolutely. Yeah. How much of that is self-imposed? And also, I think you're hurt a lot by watching the people that we talk again about, the people that were in that same class with you. Why do they get to go and you don't? Right? You're experiencing failure.
Yeah.
They did something. It's like, I hate to bring up accountability, but like if I could teach anything to my daughter when it comes to overcoming these failures, it's like, hey, honey, like I'd love to frame it up as like the world sucks and they're attacking you, but really it's just accountability. They did something different.
But that's so strong because then they feel like the ball's in their court. They make the decisions, they make things happen. This didn't happen because of a decision that you made. So if you want it to happen, you just make a different decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people look at accountability as a a negative connotation, right? Or like, oh, accountability, I'm in trouble, right? But like, actually, what you just said is so powerful. I'm going to use that later. next time, me and Rachel are talking about accountability, I'm going to use that.
Don't tell her again for me.
No, it's powerful, dude. It's like, wait, but accountability is also like dope because that just means like if you change something, you're good.
Yeah.
So like
empowerment. It's
empowerment at the same moment. And I think I've experienced this, and what's allowed me to get to like a level of wisdom that's admirable sometimes is I'm empowered, and I just say when like you say I'm so open, right? It's because I failed. Like, yeah, I failed. Like, you're right. Mm-hmm. Like, you win. Like, balls in my court though,
I'm
bro.
not trying to prove anything.
Yeah, like I'm accountable though, dog. Like, I'll tell you straight up, like, oh yeah, I did that.
Yeah, you know, so people will respond to that weird too because they want you to be upset that you failed or that you made a mistake.
Absolutely, and I think there's a level of like. I'll tie it back to like cockiness or hubris. Like there's a level that could come off that it's kind of like aggravating. Like you don't even seem like you want to make this better, or you don't seem remorseful for your actions. Right. So like it's a teetering line because accountability can look like, yeah, I did that. And that's sometimes arrogance, but it can also look like, yo, I made that mistake straight up. And I don't know where my head was at when I did that, but like,
I'm not going to let it happen again.
Yeah. The way I come back from this is going to be scary, bro. Minor setback to this major comeback, like trust. And, I think I won't get into the details entirely, but I think I've sat in front of a judge before and I've told him I made that decision. You know what I mean? And that helped me in a way that I think I would never have any of this growth in my life had I not been in that. And it was minor, but like it was a moment that I had to sit there and the only person that could take blame was me. And I came out of that situation so much better. And there's times where I'll be accountable with Rachel and she's like, she's a little bit taken back.
Yeah.
Where she actually will sometimes be like, are you even sorry?
Right.
I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I can't sit here and pretend like I did that.
Yeah.
Like you're right, dog.
Yeah,
like,
I'm the same way sometimes. And I can think of times when I've even elicited an emotional response just because I knew that that's what the person was wanting. And I'm like, oh, they're not going to think I
it's sick to
care
bring that
if
up
I don't like act like I'm upset about what I did. You know?
It's so fucked to bring that up because I it's a taste of manipulation, but I'm like,
I'm so sorry. Oh man.
And it's like sometimes, and you know what's funny is we're gonna have to wear that hat for our children.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to be like, oh my God, honey, I'm so sorry. I promised you I'd cook you steak tonight, right? My daughter fucking loves steak. So once she's thinking about, I promised, but I got home from work late and I forgot it on the way home. And you know, and if you don't sell it and you're just like, hey, I forgot it. Like I got you tomorrow. She's going to be like, what the fuck, daddy?
Well, that's emotional intelligence too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We as men don't like to project our emotions, but there are those situations where it's just necessary so that everyone else can understand you a little better, right?
Everything's kind of practice though. And like, I want to urge parents that are listening to this, like if you're not practicing with your partner or with yourself on how to be accountable, or you're not practicing emotional intelligence, like, you know, submitting to another person, you're not suddenly going to get that shit. You're not just going to see your child and just be like, oh, I know how to be emotionally intelligent. Like this is a real practice.
Yeah. And that's important to bring up. I don't think I thought of how significant that is to work on before you have to show someone else how to be emotionally intelligent, right?
Absolutely. And that's why, I mean, not that meditation is emotional intelligence, but fun fact, the reason why they call meditation a practice is because they truly, like, you will never get it.
Right.
You will never, unless you reach enlightenment, which is like a next step.
You're
right?
like a monk or something.
Yeah, this is like a higher power to reach enlightenment. So until you do that, which call me when you do, I want to know what you did.
Working on it.
Yeah, it's like if you're not in that practice, you're going to get exposed. And so I think that it's really important to know, and I urge parents, if you're not actively and aggressively practicing the person you want your child to be, if you're not practicing being that person yourself, they're gonna see through you. And it's the same. I hate this saying, do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
It's not gonna fucking work.
Right.
Like, I just gotta hear me when I say that is not gonna work. Your child is gonna absolutely do what you do.
Right.
And you're going to see yourself. You're going to see this mirror. My mom tells me, she's like, oh my God, Ricky, you are me when I was 25 and you're so goddamn irritating. And I irritate the shit out of her. And I'm probably so hard headed. And one thing I've told people that are close to me, there's something inside of me, I don't know what it is, that I have to learn the hard way. I can't help myself. You tell me, Ricky, brother, if you go get in that car, it's out of gas, you're going to break down the tire. So I have to figure it out myself. Because I'm not anymore, but I was at a level of arrogance that I'm like, I could get through it.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
I think most men are. That's like how we That's the process of becoming a man, where you put that level of your ego aside and actually learn from what people are saying to you. Even my dad, there's so many things I look back on, I'm like, wow, he might not have put it in the right context or related it in a way that I could apply directly, but what he was saying was so valuable. And that's why you have to kind of take a second before you respond, or really even try to digest what someone like your parent is trying to offer to you, because they do have that experience and they do have that wisdom, and they might not understand what you're going through, but they've been through something that they feel is going to be applicable and beneficial for you. And I've just always been like so resistant, like, oh, you don't even know what I'm going through. Like
you have no idea.
Yeah, you don't get it. Like, you don't get it. And now when people tell me that, like, oh, you just don't understand, you don't get it, I get triggered a little bit, because I've heard it in the hospital setting, and it's like, I'm literally sitting here asking you these questions so that I can understand and relate to you, so that we can make a plan.
Yeah, like, I can't go get cancer, bro.
Standard.
Yeah, like, I can't just
there
go get it.
There are things that I don't understand.
Yeah, right.
And I haven't been hospitalized, God forbid, but I've seen a lot of people go through this.
Yeah.
And I can feel your pain. I know you're upset. I know you're physically hurting. Like, I'm here to help you solve a problem.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes that communication, because I've seen other nurses that they'll react more emotionally and be offended that a patient doesn't believe in them, or that the family doesn't trust their intellect, and they'd rather talk to the doctor and things like that. And it all comes down to the pride and the ego thing. And when you're just operating out of love and really trying to be a positive influence for people, then they can take it however they want. And then your reaction doesn't matter, because it's probably non-existent. And they might figure out that you gave them something very valuable 2 months down the road and you never hear about it. But that's the beauty of our efforts. Like, they will manifest into something.
Yeah.
We're just so caught up on seeing what it manifests into, and that's not, like, the outcome should not be it.
Yeah, we want that instant It's like, you can lay those seeds and leave your legacy, but if you're just sticking around to see if it worked out, you're in it for the wrong reasons. Like, you're in it for the wrong reasons.
And you miss opportunities to go plant your seeds elsewhere while that was growing.
Absolutely. And you find yourself in this hole where, like, you could tell me, like, I helped so many people, or you can tell me one success story, and it's like, I'd rather you tell me 100. You know what I mean? In any scenario, you're going to be. I always tell people it's effort multiplied by time. So, like, anything you want to achieve, it's effort multiplied by time. You got to let it cook. You have to let it cook.
Yeah.
And so, if your effort is all going to one thing, to watch this one thing work out the whole time, all the time, like, that's where all your time is, I should say. What you reach, that goal, that mountaintop, it's just going to be a little bit smaller than if you spent your time and effort elsewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you let time grow you and cook you, instead of just, like, focusing on this one story, this one success case. In the
you don't want to plant one seed.
Yeah, you don't
want to plant a forest.
Exactly.
Right?
And when it comes to, like, if we're tying everything back to parenting, like, you teaching your daughter, you know, if I only taught my daughter, hey, the only thing I want you to know how to do is be assertive, right? You're always going to be assertive.
And teach her what that actually looks like, because it doesn't have to be disrespectful.
Right.
It doesn't have to be vulgar or abrasive, right? And setting those boundaries, because we hear words like that and have the negative connotation, right?
Absolutely.
But it's such an important quality, especially if you expect them to be a leader one day.
And I don't want to get into, like, indefinite genders, but it's an important quality as a woman. Like, if there's one thing I could leave my daughter with, I want her to. There's 3 things I could leave my daughter with. I want her to be assertive, I want her to be deliberate, and I want her to be empathetic. Probably those 3 things. I know they'll take her far. And we hear assertive and we think negative connotation, but I think the word assertive was probably created to get away from the negative connotation. Like, it was created to kind of distance itself from aggressiveness.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm saying assertive to specifically not say aggressive.
Right.
Because, like, that's not the goal. But go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say another one I would add is gratitude, because kids are grateful.
Dude.
But they don't know how to express gratitude.
You just hit it on.
I remind my daughter, like, say thank you. If somebody just gave you a sticker, say thank you. You know, you want them to know how to project their gratitude to other people and let them understand the gravity of letting people know that they appreciate them, because kids will take advantage of you, and they will get they're trying to survive, so they don't have the empathy, right? So those little things along the way, right. It makes a big difference, though, because I've seen 10-year-olds whose parents have and have not taught them gratitude,
and you know the difference quickly.
You know the difference, and we don't care really about, like, how polite your 1 or 2-year-old is.
Right.
There's a certain expectation, but we care about how they are in 10 years, and everything I'm saying to them now is going to determine that.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm one of those people that think if your child's being out of control on a plane, I absolutely hate when people fucking judge people. Yeah. And just on my last flight,
I'm not making my baby cry on this plane.
Yeah. And there was a toddler, and she was losing it, and all I could feel was bad for the mother,
one of my because I know
she's trying her best.
Yeah.
The toddler ends up like jumping over the seat where I could see her. Her whole face is black in marker.
Oh,
I mean, she has colored her entire face in marker. So I know that this mom is literally trying her best, right? But you bring up like in 10 years, imagine I saw a 10-year-old doing that. I would literally think like that feeling of I feel bad for you is kind of going to go away. I'm going to say like
what are you
what
doing?
The fuck have you allowed inside of your own four walls to allow this moment right now?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that children don't have temper tantrum. I'm not saying that.
Right. But there's like certain
I'm talking
things
like this is a 4-hour flight.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
This is a 4-hour flight that this girl was going the entire time. And I felt nothing but, sorrow for the mother.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'll be able to tell, like you said, if your daughter's 10 and she's acting the same way, like I'm going to quickly be able to tell what you allow in your own four walls.
Right.
Because it's a direct correlation to what you're allowing as a parent.
And our decisions have compound interest. Same way you put money in your fund, collecting interest. Everybody wants that big fund that's giving you 4%. You need to be putting towards your fund within your child and their mental and their awareness and all of those other things that we say for ourselves. It's our responsibility to give our kids the opportunity to focus on those things. But if they don't know that it's significant or that it's even possible to develop that, then what do we expect from them?
And remember that your child's going out into a world that's not emotionally intelligent, that's not empathetic, that wants instant gratification right now all the time. And so like these lessons, which I guess I'll just ask you to close, if telling new dads, because I think a lot of wives probably send my stuff to dads, and I think dads listen and they want some guidance, but like to any guy about to have a kid or who had just had a kid, like what's something you would leave them with? Obviously everything we've talked about, but like what's something you'd want to leave a new dad with?
Don't respond with emotion unless it's love.
Wow. Yo, I meant to say when you said lead with love, you said something like lead with love, and I meant to just cut in and be like, yo, if you're vibrating love, you'll always win. And it was just it's a little bit too spiritual right now, but like people don't want to hear that. But like the way you said that,
they need to hear it more often, because
the way you said that was so articulate.
It makes men uncomfortable to even say I love you. It makes us uncomfortable to think about what love is, and the kids need to know. So put your pride aside, tell your child that you love them. Show them what love is, and let that be in the forefront of your mind, because most of the time when kids are making bad decisions and acting up, it's because they don't feel that love, or they don't understand that we're here to love them. And that's the answer to really any bad situation. You take it to war scenarios, like there's a lack of love here. We're shooting at each other because we don't like each other, right?
Absolutely.
So it's like when that is the priority, a lot of issues go out the window and are very silly at the end of the day.
Love really can heal everything. Yeah. I mean, like through loving my daughter, I've healed my own heart.
Yeah.
Because I've led with love.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's powerful. I think that any new dad should hear that. If it was me, I can't steal Blake's, but I'd love to. But I'll say that next time. If you're a new dad or you're about to be a dad, I want you to stop. I want you to stop planning everything, and I want you to stop assuming that you know the answer. And I want you to understand you have to meet your child, and you gotta. It's like a completely different format than any human you've ever interacted with. Even if you've interacted with a child before, the format that you're going to interact with your own child, you don't have it figured out yet until you met them. And I think I was so keen on like, my daughter's going to do this and she's going to do that, and I want her to be like this, and we're not going to give her sugar and yada 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 yada. And it's like, I did all of that for no fucking reason, and I stressed, and I all of these emotions I felt, and it turns out all of it was all for naught.
Let go of that control. I was a very controlling person until I had my daughter. Mm-hmm. You want to control your environment and your home, of course, and there's a level of that that's still your responsibility. But even like you said with the food, that one hit home with the sugar, because I'm just so crazy about my daughter's diet, because we know how important it is.
Yeah.
And so there's only so much energy you can put into educating everyone else that's going to interact with her.
I mean, I'm scanning every food this girl eats, and she's on. If I could feed, I'm about ready to feed her beef liver because of the nutrients that come from it, and like I'm obsessed.
Yeah,
like I have these heart and soil vitamins, and I want to ground them up and give them to her. And it's crazy, but I'm like, I want my daughter to be elite. I'm sorry, I do. I want her to be as healthy as possible.
But that's what it takes. I saw a little girl the other day. She couldn't have been more than 5 years old, but she looked like she weighed like almost 100 pounds, you know?
Sad,
and it's not necessary.
No,
I grew up as an overweight kid, you know, and it all comes down to decisions. And my parents did a very good job raising me, but they allowed me to make the decisions of what I was putting into my body and how much I was putting in.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the education or background to make a good decision at the age of 10, right? We shouldn't expect any 10-year-olds. So that's where we step in, and you have to be assertive as a parent. But at the same time, some of that control, we have to choose our battles.
Absolutely, I think we'll leave it on this, but I think so much of raising your child is giving them tools to make decisions and giving them foundation. And so like, I want my daughter to not. I think the problem we have in America is a different podcast episode is that we treat food like a drug. Right. And so I'm guilty of this. When I am sad, I want to go get In-N-Out. Like I want In-N-Out. It's a comfort feeling. I was born in California. I want In-N-Out. Right. And so I land from a flight, I go get it. It's a habit I have. Before I leave for a flight, I eat In-N-Out. It's a habit I have. So if I could lay the brickwork though, that my daughter, her diet is actually to fuel her. And it's not an emotional decision. It is simply fuel.
And we can teach them that.
Right. And we can, because they're fresh. She's a blank slate. Absolutely. It's like, and it's in the culture though. On your birthday, you have cake, right? It's a drug. It's a drug party.
And that's why I say, you know, back to the simulation talk. All of this is planned. Like your bad decisions are benefiting someone. Right. And a lot of people out here don't want you to thrive and succeed. But we're here on this podcast telling you that the opportunity for you to do so is right in front of you. And it starts with one decision, ends in 100 million, right? But where is it going to start? Right. If you start on the wrong foot, then you can't expect to end on the right one. So I would say turn over a new leaf today and start making better decisions.
Absolutely. And I'd say just on the pursuit to make better decisions, just have more good days than bad. It doesn't have to. You don't got to be perfect.
And that's in your control.
That's in your control. Hey, make more good decisions than you make bad. All right, Blake, bro, I got to thank you. This was good. I'm going to edit out some of the tough stuff.
Dude, it's an understatement.
Yeah, dude, I enjoyed this a lot.